So one of the unexpected perks of doing these videos has been the comments from so many other players. Probably the most valuable comments are the ones that are critical or suggestive. And I got one of those from Jonas Arras, who was telling me, well, you know, not all Stradella systems have a missing fifth in the seventh chord. And I knew there were aberrations in the Stradella system, trying different things, but I thought the missing fifth was pretty standard. But it turns out that's not so. The early versions typically did have a fifth in them. So in the 30s and 40s, the fifth was more likely going to be in the seventh chord than not. And even in the early 50s, some manufacturers still kept the fifth in the seventh chord. But after that, into the modern accordion times, the fifth was removed, principally to I think add more flexibility to those seventh chords. Certainly, one of the early proponents of that, Anthony Gallerini, felt that it was valuable to have that fifth removed, and I think he had a large impact on accordion manufacturers of the time, and that became the standard. Speaking of Gallerini, and specifically about the Stradella system and the missing fifth, you might check out his video, Sharing the Joy, that's on YouTube. And if you get 9 minutes in, you'll see him talking about how he took a file and cut off the tethers to the fifths so he could get rid of the fifth on the seventh chords. And I think he had a big impact in bringing that to the standard of the accordion. So what do you do? How do you know if you've got a fifth or not? And what do you do about it if you want to play the jazz stuff? Well, there's easy ways of telling whether you've got the fifth or not. The easiest is on the seventh chord, simply play the seventh chord and then add the major chord to it. You can see that or not. You can hear there's a change, and that's because the C major chord has C, E, and G, and the seventh of the modern accordion has just C, E, and B flat. Play the major chord with it, you get the G added to it. So if you hear that change when you play those two chords together, you know that you're missing the fifth and you're fine. If you don't hear a change, that means that fifth is included in the seventh chord, and you may want to think about having it removed. Let's see. Let's similarly talk about the diminished. I think if your fifth is missing from the seventh chord, I believe that it will be also missing in the diminished chord. I can't imagine that any manufacturer would take out one and leave the other. But if you want to check that out, the diminished chord, if you go up 4 buttons, play this one and go 4 buttons up and add this one, and you hear that change, then you'll know that this first button is an incomplete diminished seventh chord, and you're adding the diminished fifth when you hit the other button. So that's the way to test it. That's the easiest way to test it. I sometimes do a different way, just because it's illuminating, and it could be useful for other reasons. is that if you depress the button really slowly, you can hear the notes add one by one if you're able to do it very, very cautiously. So like 7. So you can hear that C, C, B flat, and then E. So that sometimes could be useful, especially if you're a new player and you get in an area and you play this button and you say, oh, this sounds so great when I play these two things together. What in the heck are they? If you depress it very slowly, you can figure out all the notes and figure out what you're doing there. So that's another way to test whether you've got a 5th and the 7th chord or not. What do you do if you want to play jazz and you end up, you have some accordion that you really love, but it's a 1930s instrument, or it's a 1940s instrument. Well, you can do the Gallerini, you can go to the Gallerini video and see what he's doing. I'm not sure it's detailed enough to tell exactly what he's doing, but it would certainly give you the idea. That'd scare me to death, but if you're a kind of person who kind of likes to do it yourself, you can cut those wires and see what happens. I did call my accordion tech, who's a wonderful technician, and he said that it's a relatively, as far as accordion maintenance goes, it's relatively inexpensive. It's under $200. If your accordion's worth $50, that may be too much, and you might want to get out the wire cutters and see what you can do. But if you've got a really nice instrument, that's not a lot to invest, and it seems like it would be particularly worthwhile if you're doing any kind of jazz thing. And it also brings it up to kind of the modern Stradella standard. So that's basically it. I just wanted you to know that it's possible that you have a 5th in there. There's ways to hear it, find it, and ways to deal with it. And that's the gist. Hope this helps. Thanks.